when you start getting like $3,000 a month clients from your side hustle, that feels pretty good. And I remember having a dilemma once, and I told mom, I was like, should I quit my job or should I? Because I don't know, like I'm going crazy. Because then my full-time job is very demanding. And this is like, I wanted to succeed. So she was like, hire people, yada, yada, yada. So I did. So if I could go back, there was a time in my life where I was making a lot of money. Like I was very young too. I was like 20. I would tell myself to learn how to deal with your money better because boy, woo, where I would be right now.
Hello, everybody. This is Marceline. It's my good pleasure to have a chat with Josiane NIYOMUKESHA, also known as Josi Marie. She is a digital marketer and entrepreneur, and she's based in the United States of America, and she originally hails from Rwanda. Josiane, thank you for responding to the call.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here, but you forgot one thing. I'm also your sister, which is like top level stuff here. Okay. So let them know.
That's right. I should have started from there. Let me ask you this. What is exactly a digital marketer? What do you do?
Oh my gosh. That's a question that you get all the time because the digital marketing space is fairly new, right? And it's always changing. So it's like, how do you grasp that? So in digital marketing, we help businesses and brands and entrepreneurs reach more people online, right? So you can have traditional marketing, which could be like radio advertisements. You can have a billboard, like what I'm seeing outside. You can have flyers. You know, a long time ago when a company was opening up, we would have people on the streets actually passing out flyers. It's more like traditional. So digital is taking all of that, all of those efforts and taking it online. So when you see those ads, when you're playing a game on your phone, when you see ads on Instagram, Facebook, let's say you're visiting a website and you're seeing ads, that's digital marketing. That's what we're doing on the end. A lot of times, well, obviously those ads are paid marketing, but you can also have organic marketing. So let's say a brand is starting out and they need to really dress themselves up online and show up online. So we can do graphics designs, we can do websites, we can create their logos, whole brand identity packages. So it's pretty much how a business shows up online, whether it's paid or organic, and we market that business online. So it's digital marketing.
And as an entrepreneur, what are you doing?
So I actually, I've had quite a few years in the digital marketing space at agencies in Midtown Manhattan and on Wall Street. But during that whole time, I was also building a side hustle, which was building up my own clientele. So right now I run a small digital marketing agency. It's called Sculpted Creative Services. And we help different types of businesses reach more people online through organic, non-paid and paid advertising and brand identity services.
Right. So you are basically a digital marketer, but you're working for yourself as a digital marketer, right?
Yes, I work for myself, but I don't do it by myself, right? So I have a team of people who help me, execute on different goals. So we have quite a few clients. So I can't sit here. I will go crazy if I didn't believe in the idea of collaboration. So I have people that I work with, not just in the US, but across different countries in the world. And we get together, we see what the client needs, and we, source these different ideas from our own experiences and we execute.
Yeah, but you don't have the 9-to-5 job.
No.
So
what is that?
Okay, so
I did that. It's not for me.
Okay, that's interesting. So your company that you created basically pays your bills.
Yeah, it pays for my life, right? And and for school, and which makes it not easy, right? Because it's kind of like you eat what you kill kind of situation, right? It's not, I remember when I was working in different agencies, if I felt like I could slack off one day because I just wasn't having a good day, or, life was happening and I was a little down, you had that cushion of knowing I'm still going to get a paycheck on Friday. You know what I'm saying? But in this case, not the case. You eat what you kill. If you're having a bad day, you need to get up and keep pushing through. But I guess in the smart ways to just kind of set yourself up where you have support. And that's why I'm so grateful for the people that I work with, because otherwise I would probably lose my whole head.
To be honest, though, this is a very great achievement to start from, nothing, building your brand, building your business to get to a point where it is able to sustain you, to get to a point where you no longer need to work a side job. That's a great achievement, and many congrats.
Thank you.
Well, your background, you're originally from Rwanda, and you started off as a refugee. I know we went through from Rwanda through Congo to Kenya. You also went to Tanzania and then to America. What are some of your memories as in Africa as a young child, either in Rwanda or throughout the journeys?
Found it interesting that you said I started off as a refugee. I just want to rewind that and say I did not start off as a refugee. That's somebody else's story for me. I started off as an awesome little crazy outgoing girl in this village in Rwanda, and surrounded by, I remember cows. I remember a lot of people, family. I remember my grandmother's house, which was not too far from where we lived. So that's my beginning. My beginning was happy, you know? So I feel like it's important when we who have been through a lot in, whether it's in Africa or other places of the world, to be aware that our beginning was not in tragedy. Maybe that's what some people just remember, but we have to dig further. We have to be very intentional about the stories we tell about ourselves. So yeah, but when it comes to Rwanda, I remember quite a few things which I feel like is a little weird because I was so young, right? I remember seeing like people, I don't know if they were just working for us or they were part of the family, but they were making umutobe, which is like, is it the banana drink?
Banana juice, but very specific for Rwandans. I don't know any other people who know how to make that kind of juice. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's, I remember seeing them like putting all these bananas together in this thing that looks like a boat or like a canoe. You know, I remember quite a lot before, you know, the tragedy happened in Rwanda and we had to leave.
How about your life as a refugee then in Congo and in Kenya?
Yeah.
And Tanzania. Do you remember any of that?
Yes. So I remember then also in Gisenyi when we had to leave, right? So one night, I remember specifically, we had gotten a new TV. And it was supposed to be installed the next day. But in the middle of the night, you know, at least to my recollection, mom got a call and we all had to like get up, pack our bags and like, you know, flee, right? And leave home. And I remember in the middle of the night, we're having to like throw on whatever, take whatever. And then we're shoved into this car where it's me, our other brother and another kid in the back, the driver in the front, obviously, and mom holding Albine, our little sister. And then you guys, the older ones, I didn't know where you guys were. But in this time, I'm like, okay, I guess we're leaving. And during that time, I just remember mom telling us to keep our head down, right? But little curious me, I kept coming up and seeing what's going on. And you just see like flood of people, just the car's barely moving because the people are just surrounding it, right? And so we're just making our way towards somewhere. And, you know, it was in the middle of the night, almost like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Becomes daytime. People are giving us igikoma porridge through the window. It was just very confusing, you know, like what the heck is going on, right? And then we get to this place where we had to sleep on top of the car, like on top of the, I don't know why that was. We had to sleep not on top of the car, like where the engine goes. Like, I don't know a lot about cars. I can't even tell you what that's called. The hood. So we had to sleep on there. And then mom was giving us ikirago to cover us with. And ikirago, for those who don't know, it's like I don't know what kind of material they use, but it's almost like a carpet, like a light carpet.
Yeah, it's a carpet made of some grass thing, dried grass.
Yeah, it's like a grass mat, if you will, right? Yeah. And I guess my language was also very limited because I'm like, Mama, why are you covering us with amabati? Amabati, which is like the tin roof material that they used to build houses. It was very uncomfortable to come from our very comfortable life to that. I remember the gunshots that you would hear, you know, throughout the whole time from when we left the house, which is why I have issues with fireworks even here.
As you talk, my mind just goes back to those times. You know, what makes me really angry as an African, as a Pan-Africanist, as somebody who really cares for Africa. You have people who are just living their normal life, their daily normal life. And then all of a sudden, because of some conflict somewhere, something that you don't even know about, all of a sudden, you have to leave your life behind. You have to become a refugee. And that's why, in my opinion, it's very important for us to fight so that something like that never happens. So that no child should ever have to leave their home and become a refugee somewhere. No child. no human being, no African should be in a condition where they have to become refugees, where they have to run for their lives, where they have to leave everything that they've worked so hard for to become refugees, where they have to lose their loved ones because of some conflicts here and there. That just infuriates me. That is not right. That is not right. But
yeah, there's that thing where it's like when the elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. You know, the grass has no idea why even the elephants are fighting. They have no idea, but here we are. And like, I totally agree with your sentiment. And I think what we can also do as people who've been through stuff like that, and people are still going through things like that, is we have to be intentional as to how we tell our story and how we interact with our fellow Africans, right? So we have to check ourselves and see how we're interacting with our fellow brothers and sisters all across Africa and in the diaspora, so that we can understand that we're stronger in numbers and we're stronger when unified.
That is right. So, and really one of the things that I'm passionate about is to bring awareness to this issue. A lot of people have this tribal mindset, right? So as Rwandans, because we had these conflicts, or like our father's generations, they had these conflicts, right? And then so when I'm interacting with Rwandans a lot of time, and then I say, hey, there should be peace, you should fight for peace. The first thing they want to know, some of them, is, okay, which tribe are you? As if that matters.
It's like, oh, so can we have peace only if I'm a specific tribe?
And then they say, okay, what's your story? As if I have a human story, just like you have a human story. It doesn't matter what you went through. It doesn't matter what I went through. It was bad either way. And you and I have to fight together to make sure that kind of nonsense, that kind of disregard to human life doesn't happen again. Because if we don't sort it out, our kids are the ones who are going to suffer through. We're so lucky that maybe some of us were able to escape it, but we are now fighting for the next generation. We don't want the next generation. Yeah. So it doesn't matter what political party I'm in. It doesn't matter who I vote for, who you vote for. What matters is what we can do today so that tomorrow is better. And to be honest, it saddens my heart. A lot of people, it's even the youth, even the people of our generation, who are still in this tribal political factions. You start to have a conversation. It's really hard to say, oh yeah, this and that and the other. It's like they are tribal first and then human after. And that is a tragedy. Yeah.
That is a tragedy. It saddens me. Like, I'm just saying that, I just shake my head. This is what I was saying as far as being intentional about how we are dealing with each other, right? Because if we continue to do that, I mean, the whole Rwandan, our own country, we might just be wiped out, because we're not going to want to reproduce with people who are different from us, tribal wise, right? Because we still have that hatred and that fear for each other. So I don't know. It really does break my heart that years and years and years later, we're still being affected by what happened, not just in 94, but what happened before that and before, like decades before that. So we just have to be aware of the situation and think about the future. I know it's a sensitive topic to so many people, right? So I try not to get so much into it, but I feel like if people want to have a conversation about what happened, if somebody comes to you and says, so what was your story? I think it's important to understand where that question is coming from. Like, are you asking my story so that you can understand, so that you can learn, and so that we can work together to make it not happen again? Or are you asking me to tell you my story so that you can put me in a certain box and just, decide that, well, you think this because of that? Like, what is the end goal of you asking me such questions? So I'm all about conversations that are about understanding, learning. Like, I'm all about talking to people who have very different experiences from you, because that's how we're going to start understanding one another and move forward. Not just in this context, but in all life, like having conversations with people who come from different places than you. So I do support those conversations, as long as the end goal is to understand one another and find ways to move forward so we don't repeat the past.
People label you or they put you in this box. Now, once they find out that you are not in that box, actually,
people get uncomfortable when they cannot put you in a box.
Oh,
people get very uncomfortable.
they feel betrayed sometimes.
Yeah,
There is, let me just
yeah.
say this incident that happened. So there is this girl, she just told her story. She was like, I have been afraid for so many years. I just couldn't talk about what happened to me, what I felt when that was happening. Like her parents are from different tribes, but she identified with one tribe than the other. So she tended to reject her father, who was from the tribe that was not, the cool tribe. And then, so that continued to mess with her mind until she was like, you know what? I have dishonored my father by not admitting who I was. And now finally I am free. I can say that I am proud of my dad. And I'm sorry that I have to say it when he's already passed, but this is who I am. I'm reconciling to who I am. I am free now. As soon as she said that, the attacks that she experienced on social media was so bad that actually she ended up in the hospital for her mental health. And one of the things that happens usually is when things like that happen, or when somebody comes out and just talks, you have people either people attack that person, but most of them, they remain silent. And that's the silence of the majority. They remain silent because they don't want to create enemies. I went to Facebook and I typed, stay strong. Just having that human.
And that's a human reaction.
But then I started getting attacked too. Oh, even more. Oh, you thought what? So now I started getting attacked too, because I told this human being, my sister, stay strong. Your experience, this is your story. We're so glad that you were courageous and brave enough to come out and just talk about this painful situation that you are now reconciling to who you are. It's really something. So I just felt like she needed to hear some real people affirming her and saying, you are not crazy. You are brave. So this is where we are right now. So those things are really, really very, very difficult to deal with. But I believe that we're going to have to be brave and be the light, because there's also a lot of hypocrisy going on. And I just feel like we can't move as a people if we are not honest, if we are not really honoring God and honoring each other as humans, as we should. What do you remember as a refugee? I know in Kenya you were involved in a lot of activities. Even as a young child, you were on a performing stage, dancing and doing all of it. Like, how much do you remember of that?
All of it. That was so much fun. So we were in Kenya, and there was a group called Hosa, a Rwandan dance group. And my sister, my older sister, Clementine, was in it. And I wanted in so badly. And I asked my mom our mom and dad, I asked them if I could get in. And they were like, no, you're too young. I think I was maybe like 5 or 6 at that time. And they were like, no, you're too young. But I'm like, no, I really need to get in, So I was not allowed to. So being as my sister and I were going to the same school, like after school, she would have to go to the church, the compound where they used to do the practice. So I just started following her. And once we got there, they would start putting on their outfits to practice, and I would just kind of sneak in the back and just like follow their moves. And but what I do remember is I consistently was doing that until I was noticed, and I was invited to start dancing with everybody else. And I was probably one of the youngest dancers, and I started becoming like I was in the front row now. It was such a good time. But I would say that situation was so fulfilling, and I still to this day I approach things based on like the experiences that I've had in that space, right? Like working together as a team, learning how to follow a leader, and also leading in certain things, being as I was one of their lead dancers. And also it exposed me to so much, right? So we were living in Kayole, and we were not well off at all, right? We were staying in a 1-bedroom apartment, and in that living room space, as you remember, we had the curtain, and once that separated the already small room, and one side was where all of us kids were sleeping, and the other side was like the dining living room area. And when I would go and kuzerera to go wander about, I would see how other people were living. So, and it gives you like perspectives, right? Like we weren't that bad compared to other people. right? We weren't well off either, but at least we were not living in cardboard boxes, you know? So I saw a lot of that in the areas where we used to live, or when mom would give me money to go to the market and get like sukuma or like other groceries and come back, I would see all of these things. But being in Hosea, we were invited so many times to go dance for, different dignitaries or whatever was going on, some big events that were going on. It was always an exciting time because we would practice and practice and practice. And then before, maybe a week or so before the performance was to happen, the instructor would list the names of the people who were selected to go and perform. And no matter how good you thought you were, we were still over here like, oh my God, I hope I get picked. I hope I get picked. And I would get picked more often than not, because, I put in work. And we would get in this bus and we would go to these places. And I remember just being like, what? People live like this too? Like, how is it possible that I'm seeing all of this, but this is an option? Like, we're going to dance in this huge mansion with like perfectly manicured lawns with food that tastes like it just was served by the angels from heaven above, and I remember having a specific moment. It was like a religious leader who went to dance at their place, and
it was the ambassador. It was the Pope's ambassador to Kenya.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's where we were, and they set us up. We performed. It was great. I always loved performing. And then they set us up for lunch, like on the lawn. And I was sitting there. I remember specifically having this thought. I was like, if this is an option, this is what I want. That's it. Like, if this is an option, I'm having this. This is what I like. Done. So I think even to this day, some people may think I'm like a little bit extravagant, or like, yes, I know there are options in life, so I will work hard to get the option that I want. Right. So that exposure taught me a few things. So.
Exposure is such a powerful thing. And that's something that I'm very, very big on. I want to give people exposure, giving people a chance to see something else, giving people a chance to experience something else, even if once, just to let them see what's possible, what's available. Because a lot of people, especially back home in Africa in general, just trapped in these, trapped in poverty. Some of them trapped in ignorance. Even with the explosion of internet and information, there are a lot of people who really see that and say, I wish I was there. I wish at least for once I was in that place. And that's exactly what my feelings were when we were in Nairobi. And I'll look up and see an airplane. And I'll say, why am I not the one there?
Right.
Why am I the one standing here on this balcony in Kayole looking up? Why am I not the one there? And the moment where all of those dreams that I had were fulfilled, now my passion is to help at least one person have that chance that I had, the same chance that God gave me. I want to help somebody have that fulfilling moment and say, oh God, you know me too. Oh God, you remembered me. And I can see that that's what Hosea did for you.
Yeah, definitely. I remember the first time, like to this day, we went to Mombasa to perform for about a week. I mean, it was quite far from Nairobi. So we went to a resort. How old was I by then? Like maybe 8 years old. And we went to this resort and we got in this bus again, drove for hours and hours. Day turned into night. And it was the first time on that road that I saw like giraffes. I mean, the memory there is not so clearly vivid, but I remember that road trip. It was just filled with excitement. So we will go and stay in this hotel that was paid for by the people who hired us. And during the day, we would practice, but then also spend the whole day on the beach. And then in the evening, that's when we would perform. So continue. I didn't know how to swim at all, but that ocean was going to see me. I would go in there, come out very ashy because of the salt water, red eyes, but I had a great, probably almost drowned like twice, but it was amazing. So to this day, I don't know if you can see, I have a little gallery wall on my wall. One of the photos there is a beach in Mombasa. I had that image. I got it offline, and it means something to me, that moment that I had. It means to always seek new perspectives. There's always something out there that you can reach for that's not in your immediate surroundings. And to this day, always try to find ways to expose myself to new things, new cultures, new spaces. And that's why I travel quite a bit, because what I found is that it adds on to something that you can attribute to your professional life, to the way you deal with people. So if you have the opportunity to, like you said, always get yourself out of the comfort zone and try to expose yourself to something new, whether it's learning about a new skill. Right now, it's kind of hard to go out and meet new people, but the internet is there. You can go on eventbrite.com and find different like networking opportunities that are happening virtually. It's free sometimes, and sign up and just show up on Zoom. Introduce yourself, meet people from all over the world. Always expose yourself to new things. And if you're a bit more of an introvert, find books and other documentaries about things that you don't know about, and always expose yourself, because that just adds on to your character, adds on to your knowledge, which is power. But it just, I don't know, it makes life more worthwhile when you're constantly learning something new and realizing that what you know is not all. Like, we know nothing really. We just have to continue to have a spirit of like learning and growing.
So then we leave Kenya, we come to America. What was that to you?
So I remember when we were going to come to America, I mean, obviously we were so excited. All of us were so excited, right? I remember there were some girls who were bullying me in Kenya. I think that was because, when you leave home, like you're a stranger in every other place that you go to.
Right.
Like, no matter like how long you stay somewhere, like you're still a stranger to that place in some way. So it wasn't always easy for me to like be in cliques at school, because most of the people were Kenyan. I was this like random Rwandan refugee out here trying to figure it out. Sure, I had friends here and there, but my core was always my siblings, because we went to the same school. I would just go hang out with them. So I did get bullied quite a bit. So when we were about to leave Kenya to come to the US, I sent someone a message to tell those girls. I was like, tell this person and this person and this person this. I just remember the airplane ride, and I remember looking up in the sky, looking for where God lives. And when we get to the US, actually on that flight, I was like, oh, we're going to America. I'm going to have a white boyfriend, and, it's just going to be amazing. And from what I saw on TV, we're going to, like, the streets are paved in gold. I mean, there's literally money on the streets. It's going to be great. I remember the flight over, though. I remember one thing that I saw that was very beautiful. It was from Cleveland to Dayton. I looked out and I saw how beautiful the trees were in the fall, right? Like how they turned colors. And I was just in awe of that. And so we got here, and then we had to start a new life.
How was it for you to adjust into high school, middle school?
Yeah, I'm still adjusting. Let me just say that. Yeah, it was very interesting because we were living at home in a very still Rwandan household, right? We spoke our language. We ate our food. We have our traditional cultures. We have our events that we go to. We have that community, which I think was amazing to grow up in. And then you're always like being plucked from that and to go into this other space and we went to like mostly white schools at that point, right? And you're plucked into being like the only Black girl in this school with this weird hairstyle, where I literally had teachers sometimes, like when we're doing exams, come over my hair and just stare at it and try to figure it out, And, you don't quite speak the language well. We had to take like extra classes to, be better at English. Yeah, I never really quite fit in the first few years. And it was always like a tug from both ends, right? Mm-hmm. And then I would learn this language. I would try to perfect it. I would go back home and I would speak English, but with obviously my own accent, but with the way that I'm learning it at school. And then at home, it's like, why do you speak like that? And then I would go to school and they would ask me, why do you speak like that? So it was always like, where the heck do you belong? So it was always a struggle. I don't think, again, I'd never gotten to a place where like I was in a clique or anything like that I felt like, oh, this is my group. Always, my group has always been like my siblings and like my family. Through everything that we've gone through, like that's been the constant. So I feel like it was very hard for me to like build like long lasting friendships, because I always had this idea in my head that as soon as I get comfortable in this space, it's going to be plucked away from me, just like Rwanda was, just like the friends that I made at that school in Rwanda. If I made any friends in different neighborhoods that we had to move into in Kenya, even in Congo, I met them, and it's like that was always temporary. So it was very hard for me to like open up and like build long lasting friendships outside of home, right? So that was quite a challenge. Or even if I did, it was almost like just on a surface level. And I had to be aware of that as I became an adult and began to like reach out to people from high school even who were like, we kind of forged friendships. I could name 3 people. And now it's like I try to maintain and like nurture those friendships. So I'm still adjusting and I'm still working on things. It's not like, oh, you're here now, so everything goes away. Like your past still comes with you somehow.
So you finish high school and you go straight to New York City. And
yeah.
I can't wrap my mind around that because we are in Dayton, Ohio, this very tiny city where everybody knows everybody. And you finish high school and I think you were like 18 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then you say, no, I'm going to relocate to New York City. How did that come about? Because I remember none of us were supportive of that.
Yeah.
And we told you, don't go. And you just say, forget y'all. I am going to New York City and I'm going to live there.
Yeah. Now thinking about it, it's quite insane, right?
Yeah, no, it's not quite insane. It's very insane.
Yeah, so, I gotta back up because I didn't just graduate and tell you guys I'm leaving because I remember the whole idea of exposure. The whole idea of exposure I really liked. When I was at CJ in high school, I was involved in like choir from day one. I was involved in theater. I was in the dance team for a little bit. Actually, in my class, my graduating class, I won Best Dancer Award. But during that time in those spaces, we would go and do concerts in like Cincinnati or Columbus, and we would go to the Dayton Philharmonic. We would learn about these different performers and like classical music. I was just exposed to so many different things by being involved in that stuff at high school. MySpace was happening. This is the social network. But I was infatuated with MySpace. I would get online and I would meet people from all over. And I was like, this is so cool. Like I could meet people outside of Dayton, So when I was like 16 or 17, I started working with this guy who was in Philly. He was a designer. So he was an artist. So he would literally take your face and paint it with acrylic paint on a shirt. And you can wear this beautiful design that he made. So I liked it. I was like, why don't you send me one with my face, use my photo. On one of our out of uniform days, I will wear it to school because you have uniforms. But when it's out of uniform, you want to show out. And when people like it, because I know they will, I'll start taking orders for you. So when I first did it, I got maybe like 6 orders. So I'm like, wait, give me a photo. Give me what you want to say on it, blah, blah, blah. I would send it to him. He would do it. He would ship the items to the Dayton house. And then I would go sell it. They would give me money and I would send him like a cut off of it.
By the way, I'm sure we didn't know about any of that because I'm sure your parents wouldn't have allowed you to do business when you're a student.
No, nobody knew about that, but it was fun. And furthermore, there was like this little media company that was kind of popping up in Dayton. And I told them like, hey, you guys I don't know anything about branding. It just felt like a good idea, So I was like, hey, I have this guy in Philly. You guys have like these models and stuff. Let me get shirts made for you guys. Boom. That was a bigger order that I had. So I kind of just started doing digital marketing before it was cool, if you will. And just connecting people in the digital space and like connecting them with where I was or what have you. But that was fun. There was like the radio station. I used to go to downtown and go to these events that the radio station was host. And I met one of their top radio personalities there. And from then I met someone else. And I got into this idea of like doing media arts, like doing broadcast journalism and things like that. And so I was like, well, New York might be the best place. Now I was 16 years old. And from then I decided I was going to go to New York. And I think I came home one day and I told you guys that I wanted to move to New York when I graduated. So you guys had 2 years to like take it in. But I remember at school, at lunch, I would barely eat. I would just sit with my 2 or 3 friends and tell them how I'm going to New York as soon as we graduate. Maybe my senior year, I wasn't even there, like mentally. I wasn't at school. I didn't go to prom. I started working at McDonald's. I was saving whatever money that I could. I didn't go to prom, and as soon as I graduated, I was out.
But it's funny how, when MySpace came, and then a little afterwards, I think High Five came.
High Five came before MySpace.
Okay. All of these social media platforms, but you went there to do business. See, a lot of people are just going there to hang out, scroll down through the pictures but you went there with a mindset, I'm going to make money out of this. So
well, I don't know if I knew that I was doing that. I just found an opportunity and I'm like, well, this makes sense. So why not do it? I mean, and I loved playing with like photo editing, things like that. Just like things that getting creative online was like really interesting to me. I didn't go in there saying, well, this is going to be business. And I didn't know that that's what I was going to do in life, right? Because it wasn't a field. Digital marketing was not a field when I was in high school.
Then you go to New York. Were you like, I've been to New York twice. Every time when I'm there, I'm shocked. I mean,
shocked.
I just look at the whole thing. Like everything is so huge. And I remember one time I was at, I think it was Brooklyn Bridge. I looked at it and I was like, my goodness, this thing is, I've never seen anything as big as this one. Every time when I'm there, I'm so overwhelmed that I want to leave that place as fast as possible. That's just how scared of New York I am.
You're not alone. You're not alone at all. So a lot of people feel that way. And it's not for everybody, right? Just like Dayton, Ohio isn't for everybody. It wasn't for me, and that's okay. And that's A-okay. So when I first got to New York, I was definitely shocked. I hadn't been there ever before to go and like, scope the place and see where I want to live. But, I applied to Long Island University and I was I was accepted. That first year I was to stay at the dorm, and study there. When I got there at first, I remember like the first day or two, I got in the dorm, I put my things in there. I was like, put on my shoes. I'm like, all right, I'm out. So I went and started just walking around. Right. So I'm 18 years old walking around in downtown Brooklyn, and day one, boom. Okay. I go back to the dorm. Day two, I'm like, well, let me go sit in the common area of my floor. Let me see if anybody walks by and maybe I can meet friends or so. So that exactly happened. So that day two, I met maybe like 3 or 4 girls, and these are people who were from Brooklyn and they were just friends and they all just came to that school together. So that same night, we got into the subway. I learned how to, get my Metro card and get on the subway. And we went to Times Square and just spent the day there just wondering about, and then I came back to the dorm. And for 2 days straight, I was asleep because I was exhausted. I've never been that exhausted in my life. I felt like something just hit me because the energy of New York is really like you're vibrating with it as well. So culture shock. Some simple things, like when I say, oh, I wanted some coffee, they were like, what is that? Like, you gotta say coffee. Like, there are ways you speak. When you walk in the street, like we come from Ohio, if you see someone on the street, you say, hello, how are you doing? You keep moving. You don't do that in New York. I remember doing that while I was taking my random walks, and people would look at me like I have 4 heads. So you quickly have to learn, like you're in a different place.
Right. So in New York, you did quite a lot of things. You wrote a book while you were there. You got involved into, I think you were a talk radio host.
I had a radio show. It was called the Josi Marie Show. And that was so much fun.
Schooling was not the only thing that you did.
No.
Yeah.
I actually dropped out after the first year. So yeah, I was like, this doesn't make sense for me right now. I was going for media arts, right? Which is what I decided that I'd like to do. And I broadcast journalism. But whenever I would be in these classes, my mind was wandering outside of those classes, outside of those gates of LIU. I was like, there's something out there that I need to go see. It's not like what I'm doing here is not what I want to do right now. And then it didn't make sense for me to like keep going with no money. So I was like, yeah, I need to hustle. I need to make money. I need to get out there and see the world. And so I dropped out of school after that first year. I did get into broadcast journalism. I got into promotional modeling, where you would have different brands. So, well, first of all, let me rewind. When I was going to school, there were castings that were happening in New York, right? So they would say, okay, this Tara Banks show was going on at that time. So they would, I don't know how I found these casting websites, but you would put your profile there and then they would select you. They would send you a card. You would go, you would be a part of the audience, or you would get interviewed, things like that. So sometimes you would make money off of that. I was always finding interesting ways to make money online. I'm skipping a lot because if y'all really want to know everything, you can buy my book. It's on Amazon. So, so I did get into radio hosting. The people that I met, I think everything that I've gotten into had been like a domino effect. Like I met this person through this situation and this person through this situation. It was kind of like just a build up, which is why I say get out there, go meet people. You never know what's going to come out of it. I got into radio. And then mind you, a lot of these times I didn't have a place to live because I was out of the dorms and I would maybe couch surf. I would stay on people's couches. I met a friend whose friend had a place in Brooklyn, but it was like an investment property, whatever. They didn't live there. They were like in another state, but they let us stay there for like a month. It was hard. I remember one time I stayed in an apartment building where we just stayed in a room. Well, it wasn't an apartment, but it was not furnished, but that's where I would stay. And I would get up every day and I would have like a tuna sandwich per day to save my money. Right. So I can't say, oh, I went to New York. I had literally $28 in my pocket because everything else was gone. So I had to find ways to like hustle. But the thing that I always remember was I used to go through these things and I would go sit outside. I remember specifically that building where it was unfurnished. I would sit outside across the street from the building and I would like think. And something inside me would say, this is what you need to be going through right now. Like, this is what you need to be going through. You need to look at yourself from outside of your situation. So I don't know where that came from, but it was like, you need to stay here. Because easily I could have just went back home. I had a warm bed in Ohio, right? Like I could have just went back. But there was something that always told me, you need to stay here. You need to go through this. So I did. And from there, through the internet, I was still doing those castings, like music videos and things like that. So I met Jim Jones, who was like Jim Jones, the artist. And I told him the situation. I'm like, yeah, like I was in school. I had to leave because this, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, well, why don't you like come intern on my production? So I would like do their online stuff. I would like design little websites and things like that. I would help with casting. I was in some of their videos. But it got to a point where when I started becoming more stable, I started working at a restaurant. I met a Senator Kevin Parker, who helped me get like my first like job that kind of led me into digital marketing. I was a hostess at a restaurant and I would tell the owner, I'm like, you guys need to put this information online. So I would take his phone, I would get his passwords for the websites and I would just do things for free. And later on, he was like, well, why don't you do it? Like, I want you to be our event coordinator. And I was like, yes. So I started doing that and I was really good at it. And then I was like, well, I'm going to do the digital stuff too, but you don't have to pay me. A few months later, he was like, well, let me pay X amount of dollars cash to add on to what you're doing now for you to handle all our digital stuff. I'm like, yes. So I started doing that. I had the guts, the audacity, without a marketing degree, without a communications degree, without whatever, to go and apply for digital marketing agencies in Manhattan. And yeah, like I would go and I would sit there. I'm like, no, I don't know how to do this and that, but give me the job, give me until the weekend and I'll come and I'll get it done. So that sometimes you have to be bold and just have the audacity to say, why not? What is the worst that can happen? They'll say no, then will you die? No, just go and just always push doors open and see what happens.
You are doing all of these. And of course, everybody back in Ohio, they're saying, okay, we've lost this person. I mean, literally, nobody knows what you're doing. Every once in a while, we see your picture here. We see you in the music video there. Then we see you on YouTube here. And then we were like lost. So, but we are still lost, actually. In any case, so...
No, you know what? It makes sense that you guys were lost. It makes sense because I wasn't found myself. I was trying to find myself. When I moved from Dayton, I made a conscious decision to stop branding myself. I didn't know for what, but I said, I'm not going to go by Josiane NIYOMUKESHA. I mean, that's my professional, my resumes and all that, do that. But I said, I'm not going to go by Josiane NIYOMUKESHA. I'm going to this new space. I'm going to be Josi Marie. That was intentional from before I left. So right now, you have to, I don't know why, but I did that, but I just felt like you had to build a brand. So I still did not know where I was going to land. So it's almost unfair to expect that anybody in my family would have been at peace with what I was doing because it was very unknown. And we're also trying to, we just came here from Afrika. Like, we only know we have to do engineering, be a doctor, be a lawyer, because that's what is successful. And I was doing none of those things, So I understand. And at times I was very angry because it was like, they're not being supportive. But it's like, what do you want them to be supportive of? You don't even know what you want.
So how did you get to make your company? How did you start it? And then how did you get it moving?
Yeah. So I mentioned that I worked at a restaurant. So I'd actually moved to Florida for like a year and a half, 2 years. And during that time, I finished my book and I published it. And I was like, well, I need to market this book, right? I need to get in front of people. And the space where I was in was not conducive for that, right? So I decided to move back to New York. When I moved back to New York, I was like, well, I need to find work. So I can like promote my book. I need to, And prior to my moving to Florida, I had always been networking, always putting myself in rooms where I could meet new people, especially in the business and marketing kind of spaces. I didn't know that's what I was doing before. But I would, I got involved in like network marketing. I would be doing all of their presentations live. And that would get me to meet a lot of people. So when I came back, I kind of tapped into that network again. And one of my friends, Senator Kevin Parker, I told him like, hey, I'm back in New York. I need a job. Like, do you have any idea of like where I can start? And he knew me from like my radio stuff because I had interviewed him on my radio show back then. So he was trying to get me into those kind of spaces, but I really didn't have the technical backing to be in those spaces. So he was like, I'll keep asking, I'll keep looking. And I was like, no, it doesn't matter. Like, I will wipe tables at this point. Like, I can walk to the restaurant. It doesn't matter. So he was like, oh, no problem. So he got me a job at a place in Brooklyn. And the owner there is a Haitian lawyer. And I learned so much from him about just, you can go be a lawyer, but you can also go be a restaurateur. You can also go and do events. You don't have to stick in a box. So when I was there, being the events coordinator, being a hostess, he then let me do a lot of their digital marketing. And that's kind of how I got my toes into that water. But while I was working there, I started hosting my own events at the same place, not just putting together their events. So I started focusing on entrepreneurs. I started focusing on people who had goods and services to sell and just needed a place to sell them. So I started doing this thing called plump events. I would put together these events where we would have like maybe 12 vendors. I would do the event marketing online, mainly on Facebook. I would put ads on Eventbrite, Craigslist, and I would charge the vendors maybe like $100 to come, and I would do the marketing for it. And on the day of the event, I would have a DJ. It was just great. People would come and buy and network and then leave. And then I would do it maybe every 2 months while I was working full time. So I was doing my side hustle then. So when I went to the Midtown agency, I started doing like social media content creation, running ads, doing strategy for different businesses, focusing on high-end jewelry, retailers all across the U.S. and some in Canada. Really, really good exposure there as far as like learning different things. And I would take these things that I was learning and I would offer them the services to those small businesses that I had met during my events. So I was still, while I was working full-time there, I would still do my events to kind of just help these small businesses get exposure, help them with their marketing. And not just events now, I would say, hey, if you need this, I can do this for you. So that's how I started building my business. So the more I learned from the workplace, the more I put into my own business. So once I went into the next agency that I worked for, I started gaining momentum, word of mouth. I would always share my information, always do these events to meet new people. And I started getting bigger and bigger clients through networking. When you start getting like $3,000 a month clients from your side hustle, that feels pretty good, And I remember having a dilemma once, and I told mom, I was like, should I quit my job or should I? Because I don't know, like I'm going crazy. Because now my full-time job is very demanding, and this is like I wanted to succeed. So she was like, hire people, yada yada yada. So I did, but it kept growing, so it made sense to leave my full-time job, and so that's how it's been. It was kind of like side by side, learning as much as I can. And then offering it to people who they don't have the money to pay big agencies, but they desire and deserve the same quality of marketing. So that's just how I did it. And also figuring out how the world is moving and finding ways to position yourself to win.
I want to talk about Africa a little bit. You went back to Africa, you visited a few countries. So as an African originally, do you feel this connection with the motherland? And are you hiring any people from there in your company, or do you feel like there is a future for you there?
Yeah. So we'd been here since 1999, and I hadn't been back to Africa until, was it 2008? Being here in America as an African, you're called so many things. It wasn't always easy. One thing that I loved about being in New York was exposure to so many different cultures, to so many different Africans, to many people from the islands who were so proud of where they came from. And it doesn't matter what somebody said to them. It's like, whatever. Like, I loved that. So it kind of got me back into having that pride of being African, right? So when I finally went back to Africa, it was October of 2008, I went to Nigeria. And if I tell you, as soon as the plane hit the ground, those wheels touched the tarmac, I started crying. Like, tears just started flowing. I could start crying now. It was so powerful. I just wanted to be back home. I felt like it doesn't matter how long you were living in some other place, you were still a stranger. You were still a visitor. And I still feel that way here in America. Like, it's been great to be here, but this is not my home, right? This is where I happen to be. So when I went back to Africa, I love and have that connection with Africa. And yes, it wasn't Rwanda that I went to first. It wasn't even East Africa, but just being there just made me so happy to be there. And you didn't have all of the conveniences that you have here. All the roads weren't perfectly paved, and you didn't have the softest beds, or everything wasn't running on a particular schedule, but it was home.
Before you continue, that reminds me, when I came back to Africa, that was in 2009. I came with Ethiopian Airlines. I was going to Rwanda, but we landed first in Addis Ababa. Mm-hmm. As soon as we land, I was just sitting at the airport waiting for the connecting flight. I was almost crying. I was like, I am on an African soil. Just being in Addis Ababa alone on the airport, it felt so moving.
Really, we were really extracted from our land, from our home, in order to go and to survive. But going back was like, it does something to you. And I recommend everybody to go and make that trip. Every African, every Black person, even if you're not from Africa, born there or whatever, go and tell me later how it felt. I've been to Zambia, obviously. I've been to Rwanda. I went back to Kenya. I definitely feel a connection to the place. And with my company, I do try to see if I can collaborate with people there. So I've done projects where I've hired Nigerian graphic designers. I've hired Kenyan content creators. And right now I'm looking at someone in South Africa I'm looking at their portfolio to see about their website designs and see if there's something there. There's some people in Rwanda who I've looked for graphic design. So I'm always looking for ways to work with people on the motherland, because in the space that I'm in, you don't have to be next to me for us to work together. So I always recommend and encourage people who are in the digital marketing space, design space, who are in the motherland, to find opportunities online where they can connect with people like me and others who we can collaborate together to create amazing things. And when I get clients here, I would love to send money back home and support. Like, if one project can feed someone for a whole month or two. So it's very important for me that I do that. But also, I can never sacrifice the quality of work. Sometimes it doesn't always, make sense, but I'm always open to that. So any designers out there, any web designers, developers, even virtual assistants, you can get virtual assistants who are in other countries, content creators, feel free to reach out to me, but also create profiles for yourself and set yourself up for success. Always have that portfolio ready to send out to someone if they are asking for your services. The challenge sometimes that I've seen in doing these kinds of collaboration is internet service. Sometimes you would be having a good work situation with someone, it's going well, and all of a sudden the internet in their area is, yeah. So that's kind of heartbreaking, but don't give up. For me, I can't give up. I have to keep trying to find talent out there, and they don't give up when, they go through those kind of roadblocks. Just keep pushing, because that's the only way to get from here to there.
What advice would you give to a younger Josie?
Yeah, so if I could go back, there was a time in my life where I was making a lot of money. Like, I was very young too. I was like 20, 22, 20, 22, I was making a lot of money. I would tell myself to learn how to deal with your money better because, boy, woof, where I would be right now financially, I was making good money. If I'm talking to someone like my younger cousins or nieces and nephews, I would tell them to mind their surroundings. And not to say to be fearful of people around them, but to curate who they are around. Don't be around people just for the sake of being around people. Really be selective about the people that you surround yourself with. Some people say, oh, I'd like to be around like-minded people. And this, I think that's the most boring thing in the world. I think the best thing for you is to go and surround yourself with people who think differently, who come from different backgrounds, who have different perspectives, and have an open mind, really be open to go in that space and learn from each other and share your own perspectives. I think that really just enriches us in so many ways. But people who have different ideas and engage in those conversations from an intellectual and curious perspective, not in a judgmental space. Another thing I would say is expose yourself to as many things as possible that are outside of your comfort zone. Last week, someone booked a digital marketing consultation with me, and they're talking about, this is an industry that I've never worked in before. But they were like, Josie, this is my idea. I need you to help me with this. But thank God I've read certain books about this idea, right? I'm able to have certain conversations with them where I'm not like caught. What is that saying? Caught in the headlights like a deer, something like that. Mm-hmm. I'm not completely clueless. So open yourself up to learning about new subjects, to learning about different industries before you decide what you want to do in life. Have conversations with people around you who are older than you, who work in different spaces. Exposure. Try new things all the time. I try to do this with my nieces and nephews right now by, if they're hanging out with me, I'll cook something that they've never tried before, or I'll take them out and make them try new foods that they've never tried before, just to shake them up a little bit, So in the future, they'll be like, why not? Yeah, I could try it. What's the worst that could happen, right? As long as it's consistent with, your values and such. And don't be afraid to pivot in life. Don't be afraid to look at where you are and say, is this working for me? Are these ideas that I have set in stone? Or is there something that I can learn or have experience that can help me make better decisions instead of just remaining rigid? So be open. And cut yourself some slack. Everything kind of works out in the end. And have faith. Have faith, girl. Sometimes I sit there and I'm like, how am I here right now? Somebody's out here looking out for me because things could have went south, Mark.
Oh, yeah.
South. Yes. Take moments to be still and sit with yourself. And that's when those moments will come to me and say, this is where you need to be. Or you need to get out of here. Listen, there's something inside you that's going to guide you if you're patient enough to sit with it. I've had moments like that where I was doing certain things and my spirit was like, get out.
Actually, that's the whole thing with meditation. Meditation is really to calm yourself down and try to think and try to absorb and try to communicate with God. Try to have this peace of mind so you can even have a chance to listen to yourself. So you can have a chance to hear God. So because of this life that we're living in, we're always on the go. There's things, everything's moving. So our inner selves, there's too much traffic going on. Even with now with technology, with the internet, so we don't have that time to actually pause and listen to your own body. Listen to your own.
Because if you listen, there's so many answers.
Yes.
So a lot of times we spend so much time praying and asking and doing, but we don't have time to sit back and listen to the answers.
Even praying itself. See, and I used to do that a lot. Praying used to be a chore. I need to pray. But are you listening?
Yeah.
Pray, read, do it. Then actually take time to listen, and the Holy Spirit will speak to you and will guide you. And that's very important. So I really like what you said there. Josiane, thank you very much for this conversation. It was very inspiring. I am inspired.